they call it the farm. A prison so massive it has its own zip code. A place where inmates harvest crops under armed guards on horseback. Where some men die in the same fields their ancestors once worked as slaves. And where the darkest stories never reach the outside world. Until now. This is Angola, America's largest maximum security prison. And inside these gates, survival isn't about doing time. It's about staying alive. Before we step inside the walls of Angola, take 1 second. Hit the subscribe button and join us on this journey into the most dangerous, most secretive prisons on earth. Your support helps us bring you more real stories drawn from verified court records, inmate interviews and official reports. Now, let's enter a world built on punishment, power, and a history darker than any other prison in America. Angola Prison sits on 18,000 acres of isolated farmland in West Feliciana Parish, Louisiana, an area so vast that maps compare it to the size of Manhattan. But the land itself holds a history older, deeper, and far more haunting than the walls built upon it. Long before it became the largest maximum security prison in the United States, it was a slave plantation owned by Isaac Franklin, one of the most notorious slave traders in American history. The plantation was named Angola, after the region in Africa where many of the enslaved people were taken. Their blood, sweat, and despair soaked into this soil long before the first inmate ever arrived. Today the men incarcerated here, over 6,000 of them, live and work on the same land, harvesting crops, raising cattle, and laboring under conditions that have sparked lawsuits and human rights investigations for decades. Angola isn't just a prison. It's a machine, a system, a world unto itself. The journey into Angola begins with a single narrow road cutting through dense forests and swampy terrain. There are no neighborhoods, no gas stations, no cafes, nothing but silence and wildlife. By the time you reach the front gate, the outside world is already a distant memory. Security towers rise above miles of razor wire, and the sight hits like a punch to the chest. Guards patrol on horseback, an image that feels impossibly old, yet is entirely real. These mounted officers watch over teams of incarcerated men working the fields in bright white uniforms, the sun beating down on them for hours at a time. For many new arrivals, this scene is their first taste of the reality of Angola. Some stare in disbelief, others in fear, and a few simply lower their eyes, already exhausted by the weight of their sentence. Many of the men sent here are serving life without parole. In Angola, life means life. More than 80% will die inside the prison walls. The prison is divided into multiple camps, Camp A, Camp B, Camp C, Camp D, and so on, each operating like its own small town with dorms, cell blocks, chow halls, and work units. Some camps are known for violence, others for overcrowding, and a few for the crushing monotony of labor. One of the most infamous is Camp J, once Angola's disciplinary unit. For years, it was the place where men were locked in solitary confinement for months or even years. Inmates described the conditions as unbearable. Small cells, little sunlight, freezing winters, suffocating summers, and almost no human contact. It wasn't uncommon for men to deteriorate mentally, losing their grip on reality as days blurred into weeks and weeks into decades. Though Camp J was officially closed in 2018 after multiple investigations, the scars it left behind remain etched into the memory of former inmates. That chapter of Angola's history shows how the prison's past is never truly gone. It simply gets buried, until someone digs it back up. Walking through Angola today, the contradictions are everywhere. Men raise crops and livestock for the state, yet many struggle to obtain basic necessities. Churches sit next to cell blocks. Rehabilitation programs operate within a system criticized nationally for brutality. The world outside calls it a prison. Those inside often call it a farm, a factory, or even a battlefield. But nothing represents Angola more than the men who live behind its gates. Individuals whose stories capture the weight of this place in a way no statistic ever could. Some arrived here after violent crimes. Others were sentenced under Louisiana's unforgiving laws, where a single mistake can lead to decades behind bars. Many have matured, changed, grown old, or found religion, but Angola doesn't forget. The land remembers, the walls remember, and the system rarely forgives. In the end, Angola is more than a prison. It's a living relic of America's past, a powerful symbol of punishment, and a place where every day is a test, of endurance, of identity, and of survival. And for the men inside, this is only the beginning of the story. The entrance to Angola is unlike any other prison in America. Most maximum security facilities are surrounded by urban noise, highways, or industrial zones. Angola is surrounded by nothing. Just endless fields, forests, and the winding Mississippi River choking its borders like a natural fortress. Once you cross the bridge and approach the front gate, it becomes painfully clear why Angola has one of the lowest escape rates in the country. There's simply nowhere to go. The massive steel barrier rises in front of every new arrival like a final warning. Beyond this point, your freedom is no longer measured in footsteps or miles. It is measured in years, decades, and sometimes never again. New inmates arrive in buses, their hands cuffed, their ankles shackled, and their minds racing. Some keep their heads low. Others press their faces to the small, scratched windows, trying to get one last look at the sky without razor wire slicing it into pieces. Many will never see a free horizon again. Angola is home to the highest number of life-without-parole inmates in the United States. In this prison, more people die than are released. The first stop is the receiving center. It looks like a large warehouse from the outside, but inside, it's the place where men are stripped of their old lives. Clothes, jewelry, letters, even hair in some cases, all taken or controlled. Their belongings are checked, tagged, inventoried, or discarded outright. The air smells of disinfectant, sweat, and fear. Some men tremble silently, others pretend to be tougher than they feel. The intake officers process inmates in a mechanical rhythm refined over decades. Photographs, fingerprints, medical examinations, psychological screening. A quick flood of questions. History of violence, gang affiliation, previous incarcerations, drug use, mental health issues. Every detail helps the prison decide where the new arrival will fit, or where they might cause trouble. The Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections categorizes inmates based on their risk level. High-risk inmates may go to the notorious Camp D or the maximum security units. Older inmates or those with health issues are usually sent to camps with less physical labor. Strong, young, able-bodied men almost always end up in the fields, sometimes within hours of arrival. The field assignments are one of the things that shock newcomers most. Some arrive expecting a modern prison system. Instead, they step into a 19th century world where agricultural labor is part of the punishment. Rows of men work under the blazing Louisiana sun, watched by mounted guards carrying rifles. Angola is the last major prison in America that still uses these practices on such a massive scale. Even if a man has never held a farm tool in his life, he is expected to learn fast. Hesitation is interpreted as disobedience. Talking in the fields is discouraged. The pace is grueling. The sun can be brutal enough to blister skin and drain energy within minutes. Some inmates faint from heat exhaustion, especially during the long summers. The guards watch carefully, but the work doesn't stop. It never stops. Once processed, each inmate is escorted to their assigned camp by officers driving dusty white vans. The ride is short, but it feels like crossing into another world. On the way, inmates see large barns, workshops, rodeo arenas, cattle fields, and long gravel roads disappearing into distant clusters of buildings. This isn't a prison. It's a self-contained civilization governed by strict rules and hierarchy. Angola has its own power systems, water treatment, schools, chapels, fire department, museum, and radio station. The scale is overwhelming. Many inmates realize only then that this is not a temporary stop. It's a life sentence in motion. Inside the camp, the dormitories are loud, crowded, and unforgiving. Steel bunks line the walls. Fans spin slowly overhead, barely pushing the thick heat. Conversations echo endlessly, arguments, laughter, threats, prayers, deals, apologies. Men come from every corner of Louisiana and beyond, bringing their street histories and their reputations with them. Some inmates walk in confident, chest out, trying to show they're not scared. Others try to stay invisible, scanning the room quietly, searching for any sign of danger. Violence can erupt over anything: a disrespectful glance, a wrong word, an old debt, or simply the tension of overcrowding. Older inmates often watch newcomers with eyes sharpened by decades behind bars. They know who will adapt and who will struggle. They can spot fear instantly. Angola teaches that fear is a currency, and it's expensive. But not everything in Angola is chaos. Some camps have faith programs, education programs, or hobby crafts that give men purpose. Others have long-standing inmate mentors who pull younger prisoners aside, trying to prevent them from making fatal mistakes. Angola is a place of contradictions: cruelty and compassion, discipline and disorder, brutality and brotherhood. Some men find faith here. Others lose their minds. Nighttime in Angola is a world of its own. After final count, when lights dim and the rows of steel bunks settle into uneasy silence, the land outside hums with insects and distant machinery. The fields rest. The guards ride their final patrols. And the men inside try to sleep, their dreams often haunted by the freedom they once had or the choices that led them to this place. For some, the first night is the hardest. For others, it is only the beginning of a life sentence that stretches into a horizon they will never touch again. But Angola has more stories waiting, stories about violence, survival, power, and the strange ways men build lives inside a place designed to break them. And the deeper we go, the darker it gets. The first time a man steps into the field line at Angola, he understands immediately that this place is different from every other prison in America. The sun is barely rising when the call echoes through the dorms, "Field line, field line." And dozens of men rush to get dressed. There is no negotiation, no excuses, no room for hesitation. Whether a man has worked farms before or has never touched a hoe in his life, he learns quickly, Angola runs on labor. The field line is a long-standing system dating back to the prison's earliest days, a modern echo of the plantation that once operated here. Inmates work the same soil their enslaved ancestors once worked, and that history is impossible to ignore. The work begins before dawn and stretches deep into the afternoon. By the time the sun rises fully over Angola's thousands of acres, inmates are already sweating through their uniforms. The men stand in straight rows, tools in hand, facing miles of fields stretching endlessly across the horizon. The smell of dirt, grass, and sweat mixes with the sound of boots crunching gravel. And above them, mounted guards sit on horseback, rifles resting across their laps. These guards are trained to spot hesitation, slow work, or anything that looks like defiance. Their horses snort and stomp, impatient to move. Out here the rules are simple. Work fast. Work hard. Don't talk. Don't fall out of line. Don't argue. Don't stop unless you are told to stop. In the peak of summer, temperatures regularly rise above 100 degrees. Men swing their hoes rhythmically, cutting weeds, turning soil, or harvesting crops. The work is repetitive, back-breaking, and endless. Shoulders ache. Blisters burst. Backs stiffen. Legs drag. Many prisoners say the physical pain is nothing compared to the psychological weight, knowing that tomorrow and the next day and the next year the fields will still be waiting. Angola produces its own food, vegetables, beef, milk, corn, soybeans, so the work is not symbolic. It is essential. The prison runs like a self-sustaining farm, and the inmates are the labor force that keeps it alive. Former wardens have said that Angola tries to instill discipline through work. Critics argue that the field line is a modern version of forced labor. Inmates call it something else entirely: survival. The men who have been on the fields for years develop small strategies to cope. Some focus on the rhythm. Others count their swings. Some hum quietly under their breath, careful not to be heard. Every inmate finds his own way to endure the hours under the scorching Louisiana sun. Sometimes a man collapses. Not out of weakness but because the human body can only take so much. Heat exhaustion is common. Guards shout for medical staff but the field keeps moving. The line cannot stop. Stopping is a luxury Angola never offers. Among the inmates, there is an unspoken hierarchy even within the field squads. Longliners are those who have worked for years, their muscles hardened by repetition. Shortliners are new recruits, young, tired, and trying to learn how to keep up. Some longliners help the new men. Others mock them, calling them fresh legs or summer grass. The fields reveal character brutally and quickly. Outside observers often assume the guards are the biggest danger out here. But inmates will tell you the truth. The field line is a place where men test each other every day. One misstep, one sign of weakness, and another inmate might challenge you, push you, or take advantage of your exhaustion. Respect is earned through endurance. And yet, even in this harsh environment, strange moments of humanity appear. An older inmate might whisper advice to a young one. A man may help another pick up his tool quietly when a guard isn't looking. Someone might share water or steady a friend who's about to collapse. In Angola, kindness is rare, but when it appears, it means everything. By midday, the sun is high overhead. Sweat rolls off every face. Shirts turn dark with moisture. Dust clings to skin until everyone looks the same: exhausted, dirty, drained. Guards ride along the line, keeping a watchful eye. The horses snort, swat flies, and shift restlessly. The only break comes when the squad is marched back to camp for lunch, 20 minutes of rest before they're sent back out again. The return to the fields in the afternoon feels heavier than the morning. The sun is now brutal. The ground radiates heat. Tools slip in sweaty hands. Tempers flare. A man stares at the endless horizon and realizes he is not just working the land, he is fighting the land. And the land never loses. By late afternoon, when the field line finally returns to camp, the men walk slower. Shoulders slumped. Feet dragging. Some limp. Others breathe heavily. A few have to be helped by friends. But even then there is no rest. Showers. Count. Dinner. More activity. More rules. More motion. The field line is more than labor. It is a reminder. A symbol. A psychological weight that hangs over Angola like humidity in the air. It tells every man here, you are not free. Not even in your own body. For many inmates, the worst part is not the work. It is knowing that tomorrow the whistle blows again. And the fields will still be waiting. Violence inside Angola is not random. It has patterns, rules, histories, and silent agreements that shape the daily lives of the men who live behind its walls. Despite the vast size of the prison, Angola's internal world is tight, compressed, and explosive. Every camp has its own politics, and every dorm has its own system of power. The deeper a man goes into this world, the more he understands that violence is not just an act, it is a language. Angola has seen decades of brutality, some of which became national headlines. Fights erupt over debt, territory, stolen items, disrespect, personal rivalries, or sometimes nothing more than tension boiling over. Inmates who enter Angola believing they can simply do their time quickly discover that time does not move freely here. It twists under pressure, under fear, under unspoken rules enforced by both inmates and officers. The prison's remote location makes smuggling difficult, but not impossible. Homemade weapons, known inside as shanks, are common. These can be crafted from metal bed frames, old fan parts, broken mop pieces, or anything sharp enough to pierce. Men hide them inside mattresses, vents, shoes, or tucked deep into clothing. A shank can be the difference between living through a confrontation or never waking up again. Despite its size, Angola is not dominated by traditional street gangs in the same way as prisons in California or Texas. Instead, it operates on a different structure. Cliques, alliances, and territorial groups formed around dorms, camps, or long-standing friendships. Older inmates hold enormous power, especially men who have been locked up for decades. These old heads often enforce rules without speaking loudly or lifting a finger. Their authority comes from reputation. Respect is more valuable than anything else. An inmate can survive years in Angola if he learns 3 basic rules. Don't steal, don't inform on others, and don't disrespect anyone. Break any of these rules and the consequences can be severe. Word travels fast inside Angola, faster than any officer can imagine. A man can make a mistake at Camp C in the morning and face retaliation at Camp D by afternoon. There is also a powerful influence from car culture, a term inmates use to describe the groups they belong to, usually based on race or background. While not formal gangs, these groups act like extended families. A man's car is expected to stand with him in fights, help him when he's threatened, or support him if he owes debts. Loyalty is expected. Disloyalty is punished. In a place where threats can appear at any moment, belonging to a car is sometimes the only protection a man has. The prison administration has long known that inmate hierarchies shape the environment. Some officers even rely on respected inmates to keep the peace or calm tensions in dangerous situations. It is a delicate, controversial balance, official authority mixed with unofficial power. Some inmates become inmate counsel substitutes, working in legal roles and navigating court filings for others. These men often hold influence because knowledge inside Angola is its own currency. Violence spikes for many reasons, but some of the most dangerous moments occur at night, after final count. Darkness transforms Angola. The long dorm rows become shadowy corridors where whispering voices echo between bunks. The glow of TV screens flickers across faces that never fully relax. Arguments can escalate quickly when 60, 70, or 80 men share a confined space under stress. Some camps are known for being hotter than others, a prison term meaning violent, unpredictable, and tense. Camp D has held some of the most aggressive inmates, and historically, it has been the site of riots, stabbings, and large-scale fights. Even after years of reforms, the reputation remains. Officers walk in groups. Radios crackle often. Inmates stay alert. But violence in Angola is not always loud. Some of the deadliest actions are silent. A man can be targeted for something he did years earlier, sometimes outside the prison. Old conflicts from the free world turn into new conflicts inside. Debts owed to drug dealers, gang grudges, personal betrayals, all can follow inmates into Angola, making the prison a dangerous continuation of street life. The Angola administration has documented hundreds of assaults yearly, though inmates claim the true number is far higher. Many incidents never get reported because reporting can brand a man as an informant, a label that can end his life. Silence becomes a form of survival. Men learn to heal themselves, hide injuries, or resolve issues internally. Among the most infamous cases of violence in Angola is the story of the Angola Three: Herman Wallace, Albert Woodfix, and Robert King, who spent decades in solitary confinement for allegedly killing a correctional officer in 1972. The case sparked global outrage and years of legal battles, eventually leading to releases and judicial intervention. Their long isolation became a symbol of both Angola's harsh punishment and the broader debate about solitary confinement in America. Another major incident occurred in the 1990s when several inmates were murdered during power struggles over contraband networks. These events forced Angola to tighten security, increase surveillance, and expand its maximum custody units. Still, contraband finds its way inside. Phones, drugs, tobacco, and homemade alcohol continue to circulate. Despite the danger, many inmates find ways to maintain order among themselves. Older prisoners often mediate conflicts, especially among younger men who arrive with street mentalities but quickly realize the prison world operates differently. Some men become mentors, teaching new arrivals how to avoid the traps of prison life. Don't gamble, don't owe anyone, don't join conflicts that aren't yours, and never underestimate the politics of survival. Violence may be part of Angola's history, but so is endurance. For every act of aggression, there are countless acts of restraint. For every fight, there is a moment where two men decide not to escalate. For every planned retaliation, someone talks another inmate out of making a decision that could cost him his life. Inside Angola, survival is not just about being strong. It's about being smart, learning the rhythms of danger, reading people carefully, knowing when to speak and when silence is the only safe answer. And yet, even with all these unwritten rules, one thing remains true: anything can happen in Angola. Any day, any hour, any minute. Because in a place built on discipline and punishment, violence is never far away. It is the shadow that follows every man, every step, every breath. Angola is not just a prison. It is a world carved out of history, pain, discipline, and survival. A place where more than 6,000 men wake up each day knowing they may never leave its gates. Where the fields, the cell blocks, the dorms, and the endless Louisiana heat shape lives in ways the outside world may never truly understand. Some men here grow old. Some find faith. Some lose hope. And others fight every single day just to stay alive. But every one of them becomes part of Angola's story, a story built on real lives, real consequences, and a justice system that continues to evolve, struggle, and be questioned. This prison, once a plantation, now a maximum security fortress, still carries the weight of its past, still echoes with the footsteps of the men who work its fields, still reminds us that punishment in America does not end at a sentence. It begins with it. As we step back through the gates and return to the free world, remember this: behind every statistic is a human being. Behind every cell is a story. And behind every prison wall is a truth the world doesn't always want to see. If you found this documentary powerful, informative, or eye-opening, take a moment to subscribe. Join us as we continue to explore the hidden corners of the prison system, the stories that matter, the histories that shape us, and the realities too many people never see. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay curious, and until the next documentary, the truth remains alive.